case we have never met, I'm Michael Price, and I want to help you succeed in growing your business.
Welcome, I'm Michael Price, your host.
And I'm Nancy, your co-host.
This deep dive is of special importance to me.
I know because you are a disabled Vietnam veteran.
Let's get started.
I'll try to not get choked up.
What if I told you the federal government is, legally preparing to force massive billion-dollar corporations to basically knock on your door and beg to give you money?
I mean, it sounds a little crazy, right?
It really does, because usually federal procurement is viewed as this impenetrable fortress, like a walled city where only the biggest players with the absolute sharpest elbows ever get inside.
Oh, absolutely. It's notoriously difficult to break into.
Right, but today we're looking at a legislative proposal that legally ring fences a massive pile of money for one specific listener, and that is the veteran entrepreneur.
Yeah, it completely flips the standard script, how you think about government contracting.
Yeah, totally.
You are no longer just an outsider trying to crack a code. Under this proposal, you become a highly sought-after asset to both the federal government and, frankly, the largest corporations in the world.
Welcome to this deep dive. Today our mission is highly practical. We have grabbed a massive stack of legislative notes, bill summaries, and procurement data to walk you, specifically you, the new entrepreneur listening to this right now, through exactly what it takes to win federal government contracts.
And we're doing this under a major piece of proposed legislation.
Exactly. We are talking about the Contract Our Veterans Act of 2026. This is H.R. 7534. It was introduced by Representative Randy Fine on February 12, 2026, and as of our notes right now, it currently has 5 co-sponsors.
Which is important to note because understanding its mechanics right now gives you, the entrepreneur, a massive head start on how federal contracting targets actually work.
Right? Getting in on the ground floor.
Exactly. The gears of government move in very specific ways. And even though this is currently a legislative proposal, the mechanics outlined in this bill are a perfect blueprint for understanding how the whole federal acquisition machine operates.
Think of the federal procurement budget like a massive, highly competitive pie. Everyone wants a slice. And this bill is attempting to legally put a fence around a very specific slice of that pie exclusively for veteran entrepreneurs.
Yeah, it's a great analogy.
Okay, let's unpack this. The core of this bill, like the real headline grabber here, is that it amends the Small Business Act to establish a minimum participation goal of 5%.
Right, 5%.
And crucially, this applies to all prime contract and subcontract awards for each fiscal year.
Yeah, that distinction is huge.
Just to ground that for a new business owner who might be, taking notes right now, the prime contractor is the massive corporation that signs the master contract with, say, the Pentagon or the Department of Energy.
The big guys.
Right. And the subcontractor is the smaller business they hire to actually build the microchips or write the software or pour the concrete. This 5% rule hits both of them. So can you explain the significance of making this a minimum statutory goal across both levels rather than just like an informal target?
Yeah. So if we connect this to the bigger picture, an informal target is essentially just a suggestion.
Right, like a nice to have.
Exactly. It's the government saying, hey, we'd really like it if you tried to hire some veteran-owned businesses. But a statutory minimum goal that legally binds federal agencies.
Wow, okay.
It shifts the entire federal procurement apparatus from making a passive effort to a very active mandate. By applying it to both prime contracts and subcontracts, those massive corporations that win the billion-dollar prime contracts are suddenly under immense regulatory pressure.
Because they have to find veteran-owned subcontractors to meet their own numbers.
Yes. It forces the entire supply chain to prioritize veteran entrepreneurs. So it's not just the government looking for you anymore. It's the giant defense contractors who won the prime contracts. They're suddenly knocking on your door because they legally need your veteran-owned business to hit their own compliance quotas.
That is wild. They are literally scrambling to find you.
Oh, absolutely scrambling. Think about it. If a major aerospace company wins a $10 billion aircraft contract, they now have a $500 million statutory obligation to funnel down to veteran-owned sub-tier suppliers.
$500 million.
Right. Your status as a veteran-owned business becomes the key to them keeping their massive government contract compliant.
That sounds like a dream scenario for you, the listener. But let's look at the mechanics of actually capturing that money.
Yeah, the practical steps.
Right, because if the government and these prime contractors are carving out this 5% slice, how do they actually know they are giving it to the right people?
That's the million-dollar question, or, well, the $500 million question.
Exactly. There has to be a mechanism to stop fraud, which leads us to the first actionable step for our listener today, and that's proving your status.
Yeah, you can't just, slap a veteran-owned sticker on your proposal or put a nice little American flag on your website and call it a day.
No, the government doesn't work like that.
Definitely not. The legislation specifies that to be eligible for these contracts, both the business and the veteran owner must be verified and listed in a quote-unquote designated database.
And here's a crucial nuance for you. The text of the bill itself doesn't explicitly name the exact database.
Right, it leaves it a bit open.
But looking at the current landscape of federal procurement, it heavily points toward the Small Business Administration's Veteran Small Business Certification Database.
Which is widely known as VetCert.
Yes, VetCert.
So,
what does this all mean for you, the entrepreneur listening right now?
well, it means the very first thing you have to do is get your administrative house in order. You have to undergo a formal pre-bid verification process.
Before you even look at a contract,
Before you do anything, the government needs to verify your service record with the Department of Defense or Veterans Affairs. Then they really scrutinize your ownership stake.
like how much of the company you actually own.
Exactly. You usually must unconditionally own at least 51% of the business. And perhaps the most rigorous part, they verify your control over the daily operations.
Meaning what exactly? Okay,
Meaning they want to see that the veteran is the one actually making the highest level executive decisions. You can't just be acting as a figurehead while some, silent partner or corporate backer runs the show behind the scenes.
oh wow. So that is a really deep administrative dive.
Oh, yeah. They are looking at your bylaws, your stock ledgers, your tax returns, everything.
So you must be visible and verified in that designated database before you ever sit down at the negotiating table or submit a bid?
Correct.
It is a strict prerequisite. You can't say, oh, I'll get verified if I win the contract, and you have to be in the system first.
You won't even get a foot in the door otherwise. But once you are through that verification gauntlet, the legislation introduces some highly advantageous mechanisms.
This is the fun part.
Yeah, primarily through restricted competition and non-competitive bidding, which is often called sole sourcing in the industry.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Think of the open market like open tryouts for a sports team. Or actually, let's use a theme park analogy.
Okay, I like theme parks.
The open market is like the general admission line for a roller coaster. It's miles long. Everyone is in it. It takes forever. Restricted competition is like getting into a VIP line.
Right, the fast pass.
Exactly. The government looks at the pool, realizes there are enough qualified veteran players, and closes the doors to everyone else. You are no longer competing against the whole world. You are only competing against the people in that specific, much smaller room.
Which exponentially increases your mathematical odds of winning. I mean, the contracting officer looks at the market research, determines there's a quote-unquote reasonable expectation that multiple veteran-owned businesses will bid, and they simply restrict the entire competition to that designated group.
But then there is non-competitive bidding or sole sourcing. If restricting competition is the VIP line, sole sourcing is the theme park just opening a ride just for you. Nobody else is even allowed on the coaster.
I love that. No competition at all.
Just you.
Right. The contracting officer can just point to your business and award you the contract, but the bill dictates that 3 very specific conditions must be met for that to happen.
It's not a total free-for-all.
No. First, the proposed contract price has to be fair and provide good value to the government. They aren't going to overpay you by millions just to meet a quota.
Right, the taxpayers would riot.
Exactly. Second, the total contract amount cannot exceed specified dollar thresholds, so there is a ceiling on how big a sole source contract can actually be. And third, the business must be deemed a, quote, responsible source.
Okay, I have to push back on that last one.
Go for it.
Responsible source. What exactly makes someone a responsible source? Does the contracting officer just look at your website, see a nice logo, and say, yeah, they seem responsible? Because that sounds incredibly subjective and frankly a bit like a massive loophole for them to just reject whoever they want.
Yeah, it sounds like it could be subjective. But in federal procurement, responsible source is the furthest thing from subjective. It is a rigid, heavily scrutinized threshold. It means you must prove you have adequate financial resources to float the project before the government pays you.
Because the government doesn't pay up front.
Exactly. They pay on net 30 or net 60 terms often.
Yeah.
So that usually means you need established lines of credit or bonding capacity. It also means you have the proven ability to comply with strict delivery and performance schedules.
You can't miss deadlines.
No. You have to show a satisfactory performance record on past projects, and you must possess the necessary organization, experience, and technical skills to actually execute the work.
Wow. Being a veteran gets you the opportunity, right? But being a responsible source is what gets you the contract. You have to prove extreme competence.
So you're telling me a new entrepreneur has to prove they have the financial backing and infrastructure of a 10-year veteran business just to get in the door?
Basically, yeah.
If I'm a listener, I'm thinking the system is rigged against me from day one. I mean, how does a one-man shop survive that kind of scrutiny?
And that exact problem is why the Contract Our Veterans Act changes the rules on who inside the government is supposed to help you.
Oh, interesting.
The bill doesn't just change the rules for the businesses, it fundamentally alters the job descriptions for specific government employees.
Okay, so we are talking about business opportunity specialists and commercial market representatives.
Yes, those exact roles.
For our listeners, think of these folks as the inside operators at federal agencies and the Small Business Administration. Historically, an entrepreneur might view them as gatekeepers. You know, the people analyzing your flaws and stamping rejected on your application.
Right, the bureaucrats.
Yeah. A commercial market representative, for example, is specifically tasked with monitoring the massive prime contractors to ensure they are meeting their subcontracting plans.
And what's fascinating here is how the legislation updates both of those roles to explicitly include and manage veteran-focused programs.
So they have to focus on veterans now?
Yes, their own job descriptions now require them to support your veteran-owned business and literally connect you with those massive prime contractors.
That is a massive paradigm shift.
It really is.
You are no longer a nuisance to government bureaucrats. You are the solution to their internal key performance indicators.
Exactly. If the government worker misses their 5% quota, their boss gets mad at them. If the prime contractor misses their quota, the commercial market representative flags them.
So they are literally being paid to help you figure out how to navigate this system.
They need you to succeed just as much as you need you to succeed. They become active facilitators. And beyond the personnel, the legislation also mandates changes to the actual mathematical evaluation of competitive offers.
Okay, let's break down how that mathematical evaluation actually works, because this is huge.
Yeah, so when you are submitting a general competitive offer, so this is outside of those restricted sole source tracks we talked about.
Right.
The contracting officers are formally required to weigh your veteran-owned status in their evaluations.
Right, and our sources don't specify the exact numerical weight, but conceptually, let's say a contracting officer uses a standard matrix where price is worth 50 points and past performance is worth 50 points. This bill forces them to add a new scoring column specifically for veteran status.
Yes, and exactly how that plays out is crucial for you to understand.
How so?
It means a veteran-owned business could technically be outbid on price, or maybe they have slightly less past performance history than a massive corporation.
Because they're newer.
Right, but they still win the contract mathematically because those bonus points for veteran status push their total score over the edge.
That is incredible.
It creates a structural advantage at every single level of the procurement phase.
So let's walk through the timeline for our entrepreneur listening, just to put it all in perspective.
Sounds good.
You got verified in the VetCert database, check. You built up your operational capacity, maybe formed a teaming agreement, got your financials in order so you could legitimately claim to be a responsible source. You leaned on a business opportunity specialist who helped you navigate all the red tape.
Yep.
You submitted the bid, your veteran status mathematically tipped the scale, and boom, you won the contract. Incredible. The champagne is popping.
Celebrate for a minute, yeah.
But now here's the rub. Can you just hire a cheaper non-veteran company to do the actual work while you sit back and collect the margin?
Absolutely not, and this is arguably the most important operational constraint in the entire bill.
You can't just flip it?
The legislation includes very strict subcontracting limitations. It mandates that the majority of the work on an awarded contract must be performed by the veteran-owned small business itself.
The majority of the work? Whoops.
So, depending on the industry, that usually means at least 50% of the personnel costs for services or 50% of the manufacturing costs for products must be handled by your own employees.
So if you win the bid, you have to get your hands dirty. You can't just be a middleman cashing the government's check.
No, and this provision is explicitly designed to stop what are known as intermediaries or pass-through entities.
Pass-throughs.
Yeah, because in the past, across various government programs, you would see a business that met the demographic criteria win a contract only to immediately subcontract 90% of the actual work to a massive non-qualifying corporation.
Oh, wow. So they were basically renting their status.
Exactly. The qualifying business essentially acted as a storefront to capture the contract. They took a small administrative cut and then passed the real money and the real work to someone else.
Which completely defeats the entire purpose of the 5% mandate.
100%.
If the goal is to build up veteran entrepreneurs, Letting them act as mere brokers doesn't build long-term business capacity. It doesn't create new jobs within the veteran community. It just creates a loophole for the big guys to keep taking the pie, using the veteran as a shield.
Yeah, and the government recognized that vulnerability by legally requiring that the veteran-owned business perform the majority of the work. It guarantees that the intended businesses are the direct beneficiaries.
It forces actual growth.
Right, it ensures accountability and prevents exploitation of the mandate. You are being hired to do the work, so you must have the personnel, the equipment, and the expertise to actually execute.
And the accountability doesn't just stop at who does the work, does it? The government is also putting a microscope on the money itself.
Oh, big time. The legislation includes enhanced reporting obligations. The government will be heavily tracking the exact dollar amounts and awards attributed to contracts with veteran-owned businesses.
They want receipts.
They want all the receipts.
Real.
What's interesting is they are plugging this veteran data into the existing highly scrutinized reports that currently track women-owned businesses.
So they are feeding it into an accountability machine that is already up and running. They aren't just saying, oh, we hope we hit 5% this year. They are going to know exactly how many dollars went where, and if they miss the target, there will be a paper trail showing exactly where the system failed.
Yeah, your success as a veteran entrepreneur literally becomes a line item on a report that Congress will be looking at.
That is some serious oversight.
It creates visibility at the highest levels of government, which frankly is the ultimate enforcement mechanism for that 5% statutory minimum.
Well, let's bring this all together for you, the new entrepreneur looking to capture this opportunity. Let's run through the crucial checklist based on everything we've unpacked today from the Contract Our Veterans Act of 2026.
Let's do it.
First, you have to get your status verified in the designated database, which means getting intimately familiar with the SBA's Vet Cert system and proving your ownership and control. Do not wait until you see a contract you want. Get verified now.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Second, you must build up your business operations so that you can genuinely meet the strict responsible source criteria. You need your financials, your track record, and your technical skills to be bulletproof so the contracting officer has zero hesitation in awarding you the work.
Third, don't do it alone. Find your business opportunity specialists and commercial market representatives. Lean on them. Their internal metrics literally depend on your success.
Let them do their jobs and help you. And finally, be fully prepared to execute. If you win the contract through these restricted competitions or mathematical weighting advantages, you cannot just pass the buck.
No pass-throughs.
Right? You must be prepared to perform the majority of the work yourself.
It is a remarkable piece of proposed legislation that offers a massive opportunity, but it demands rigorous execution in return.
It does, but, this raises an important question, though.
What's that?
Well, we see how the bill explicitly mirrors the strict reporting obligations already used for women-owned businesses, tracking the exact dollar amounts to ensure accountability and prevent those pass-through loopholes.
Yeah.
If this strict accountability combined with a hard 5% mandate proves highly successful for veterans, could this precise legislative framework become the new universal blueprint?
Oh, wow.
Right. Could we see this exact structure used for how the government ensures fair participation across all demographic categories in the future?
It's a fascinating thought. I mean, if they build an accountability machine that works perfectly for one group, it's really only a matter of time before they start running everything else through that exact same machine.
Exactly.
We'll have to watch how H.R. 7534 progresses, but for now, to the entrepreneur listening, you know exactly what is being set aside and you know exactly how to get in line to claim it. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep learning, keep pushing, and we will catch you on the next one.
Thanks for staying with us on this important legislation.
It is my honor to be with you today.
If you found this video helpful, please consider donating to helpallvets.org. Thank you.
A special thank you to MarketUS.com for furnishing us this information. You can reach them at MarketUS.com or call them at 954-636-3232. Before we go, this deep dive was created by the MarketUS.com team. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. It's right below the subscribe link.